From that standpoint, she and I kind of did it differently. I started off on, just trying to buy wines from the grocery store. And at that time, a decent wine was about $7, $10. The really pricey wines were, 25, 30. And if you could afford a fifty to $70 bottle of wine, I mean, that was, more like expense account kind of wines. We mainly just did things between the couples. And then because our kids were older and we kind of ventured out in the world, we started, and at the same time, distilleries, breweries, wineries were starting to really evolve in that area of Dallas where we lived. And so we would do what we called Fun Fridays, and we would drive out to the wineries, the distilleries, what have you, and spend the day not just drinking, but we'd also stop at, tulip farms and all kinds of different things just to kind of experience what was out there. But she started working for a local winery. And then when they would have like a big event, I would go and help out with like Oktoberfest, pouring wine or, something like that. But we were always going out and trying different things. There became a point when my husband took a project and we moved out of country, not that far, but we went to British Columbia. And if you know anything about Victoria, it is a city that's very much a tourist town. And what I found out shortly after we moved there was that there were a couple of different wine schools, which, for, the 100, 200,000 people they had on the entire Vancouver Island, it's pretty amazing that, they had that many wine schools, like on a per capita basis. So I signed up for a WSET 1 just to see. And I'll tell you, it was one of those things where you walked in the door and it was a few hours and there was probably 50 people. Oh gosh, there might have been 75, 80 people in there. It was a hotel ballroom. And there was a man who, was a former principal who had, taken on to wine study, which is pretty common. A lot of educators go into wine. And it was really interesting. But the basic premise of the WSET 1 is simply the noble grapes. Here are the basic wines in the world that are varietals, grape types that you need to know. So things like, Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauv, Merlot, Syrah, things like that. And I was pretty embarrassed to realize that up until that point, people would talk about, well, I like to drink a Pinot. And I always assumed that meant Pinot Noir. But come to find out, there's a Pinot Blanc and a Pinot Grigio. So I could never figure out how in the world can people be ordering a Pinot and some people get a white wine and some people get a red wine. So I share that just to say that when I started my professional study of wine, I really was kind of a blank slate. I'd been to plenty of business dinners. I'd spent, many thousands of dollars on wine over the years, not at home necessarily, but in, different places and been responsible to buy wine, but really had no idea how to pair, how to understand wine, how to know kind of how to categorize it, if you will. Similar to if you were looking for music, you wanted to play while your friends came over for, I don't know, game of cards or something, right? People do that anymore. But if you were having friends over, or maybe you were having someone special over, how would you pick the music? Would you pick the loudest, noisiest, whatever? Probably not. You'd probably pick something that's lively, but yet keep the volume down low enough that you can talk over it, but yet it kind of brings a good vibe and a good feel to the evening. Well, that's the same way that you can learn to select wine. So many people will ask me, oh, you're sommelier, you're, level 3, blah, blah, blah. What's your favorite? Because they think if I tell them, then now they've cracked the code and maybe, just maybe, that will be their favorite wine and then they'll know what to order. And I can identify this because when it comes to a cocktail, I really don't have a signature cocktail. And it's so frustrating for me when I'm out with friends or I'm out with my husband and, we sit down at the bar and it always catches me off guard. And here I am doing what I do and I should have figured this out by now. But, they'll ask me, what do you want? And I look around at the bar because you have to figure out, first of all, what kind of a bar am I in? If I'm in a biker bar, I'm not going to order a daiquiri, right? If I'm in a speakeasy, I need to order something cool like a gimlet or a sidecar. I shouldn't be ordering a screwdriver necessarily. So you kind of have to know where you're at. And wine is a little bit the same like that, but I think that people put way too much complexity on it. And I think what has happened over time is people look at ordering wine like they look at ordering spirits, which that would make sense, right? But typically with spirits, people will have a signature drink. They either will always order an old fashioned first, or they'll order, like I said, a gimlet or a sidecar. But with wine, you don't want to have just one. And in this age of information, people are so overwhelmed. They're always, getting this much information and filtering down and filtering down and filtering down and filtering down the same way they would to determine what's the best school, what's the best neighborhood, what's the best house, what's the best purse, what's the best shoes, what's the best nail salon, like whatever that is. Everyone's always looking for, if I can just figure out the one, then I can do that and go on autopilot, right? Because that makes our life easier because human beings are a slave to routines. That's just the way that neuroplasticity works. We know that we are safe once we repeat doing what we've already done that we know that we won't die from. And the idea of doing something different makes us terrified at worst and uncomfortable at best. So, when it comes to wine, people will tend to make the fatal mistake of deciding that they only like one. And I can probably tell a little bit about you and your experience with wine based on the go-to wine that you have and probably 2 or 3 questions. Because there are certain wines that you can tell that people order because they basically don't taste like anything. And so they don't really like wine, but they want to look like they're drinking wine. You've got the people that want to get that punch in your face, either fruity or tannic wine, because they are seeking as much flavor as possible. You've got people that want that more cerebral experience of something layered, something earthy. And then you've got those people that, it's more about what my friends drink or what the trend of the time, the year, the whatever, the decade, whatever is. But I would liken that to music. So most people do not listen to one song on repeat for 40, 50 years, right? We have a whole range of music, most of us, a lot of us. And so what I liken wine to is it's not about finding the one. It's about enjoying the many shades of what's available. So again, using that music example, showing my age, but I did mention I'm Gen X, love Cyndi Lauper. If I am doing a night with my girlfriends and we're going to go out and have some wine and maybe a little bit of dinner, I might play Girls Just Want to Have Fun while I'm fixing my hair and getting ready to go out. That would not be the song that I would want to play on repeat every day for the rest of my life. Not because I don't enjoy the song, but because it's not appropriate for every mood. It would not be welcome in every situation. Wine is the same way.